All right, we're kicking it off. My guest today, Joe Nickolls, president and co-founder of Timbre Games Vancouver, previously VP of Maxis at Electronic Arts. I just like to say the full name. Studio director at Capcom, executive producer at Microsoft. Joe, how long have you been in games industry?
23 years.
Damn,
I know.
You're a vet.
I know.
A senior.
I know.
And I know that this podcast is going to be very good, not because of the topic and not because I know you from before, but because you've been in radio for 10 years.
Yeah, that was my first gig. Before I got onto video game land, I was on the air, and a lot of self-policing when that microphone light's on.
Well, wait a minute. How come Timbre Games doesn't have a podcast?
Funny you should say that. We're going to have a podcast. We're going to have a bunch of stuff, but we're still ramping everything up. But we have a plan. We have a whole bunch of stuff we're going to launch, including probably the world's first clog. And we could talk about that later.
Clog?
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, you know what a blog is. And then there's a vlog. Well, we do cartoons constantly. So come up with clog. And that's how we get our message out.
Isn't that what newspapers used to do that? I don't know, I haven't read an actual newspaper in a long time, but they had clogs, right?
Totally. Going old.
So it's not new. It's like you're bringing clogs back, right?
Yeah, we're bringing sexy back.
I want to talk to you about employer branding because you've been doing a phenomenal job at Timbre Games. And I've been really the admirer of the brand building strategy you've had since kicking off Timbre Games Vancouver. You know, the comic strips that we talked about, they kind of ooze the fun that you guys are having. Your website is very different, stands out a lot. Everything that you do, the communication that you have, the website, the video on the website seems very joyful. And it really sits with the how you've set, which is building a studio where culture drives creative, a studio that brings values into experiences you make. So, Joe, I want to start off with why did you start Timbre Games? Where did they come from? And can you talk a little bit about Timbre Games and Sumo and Pipework? How does that all work together?
So, as you know, I was at Maxis and did about 4 years there. Loved it there, but got to the point where I was thinking I didn't want to be in a different country than my daughters. One was finishing university in London over in the UK, and another one was going to film school in LA. And I thought, they ended up going back to Canada. And when there's a pandemic on, you kind of want to be in the same country as your kids anyway, any given day. But when there's a pandemic on,
depends on the kids.
Yeah. But when there's a pandemic on, we thought, well, even if we had to get back to Canada from the Bay Area, which is an easy flight, we'd be in quarantine for a couple of weeks, and it would just been weird and couldn't really help kids out. So I ended up saying, hey, I'm going to do this out of Vancouver for a while. Long story short, for exciting reasons like corporate taxation, et cetera, and the position I was in, I couldn't be in a different country and run the thing from Canada when it's an American thing, but vice versa. It's much easier. And so I said, I'm going to stay in Canada. I belong here. Is where I belong. I need to stay here. And they said, well, we really got to figure this out because, the way this is working with Max is got to find a different solution. I said, well, I think maybe I'll just go and see what I can do up here. And we looked at some opportunities in Canada, but I was really thinking it was ready to do something else. So how did this all start? I started a while back. I went to GDC and met a guy named Lindsay. Lindsay was the guy running Pipeworks. And we just hit it off. Interesting guy. We're kind of joke around. We're kind of like Penn and Teller. He's the guy. We decided at some point we were probably going to find a way to work together. And it started off that his studio, Pipeworks, was looking to do some expansion. They wanted to do something in Vancouver because he had some experience there. So we started to work on that. What would that look like? And then he called me and said, "Hey, spanner in the works. We're being acquired by Sumo." I'm like, "Oh, okay. So what does that mean?" I said, "Well, let's Let's keep talking and see how it goes. I said, okay. And then we kept talking. And then Sumo was all for it. Said, hey, yeah, we really want to do this. And so it kept moving forward. And then we pulled the trigger. And so let's start at the studio. And it was really cool because Pipeworks has been around for about 20 years and people just didn't know about them. Right? They've been around for a long time. They've been survivors. And they got acquired by Sumo because obviously they do something good enough for a big company to want to buy them. So Sumo came in, but Sumo has been like such a breath of fresh air with how that whole studio operates. Like they're really cool, really care about their people, and have great values and great systems. And there's I think we're the 14th studio now that they own. Mm-hmm. So we set it up, and so we started coming up with what are we going to call the studio? How's this going to get here? So Timbre was not the original name of the studio.
Yeah.
We initially started out, and we wanted to have something super West Coast because that's where we are. Let's come up with something really sounds like where we set up shop. And so we're thinking, it's going to be like trees or West Coast, smoked salmon entertainment or anything like that because we wanted to make
smoked salmon entertainment.
That was further down. What's a cool tree? And we thought, well, Sitka. Sitka's an interesting name for it. There's a Sitka spruce, and it grows almost exclusively down the west coast of Canada and goes down to around Oregon and then stops. I'm like, whoa, that's super deep. But then we did some research and went, you know what? Sitka is actually an indigenous name, and there's a Sitka tribe in Alaska. And we thought, man, there is no way we were going to, how dare we name a game studio on something that does not belong to us, and so we stopped. But
very, very Canadian way of thinking. Very Canadian.
Recent events have sure made everyone in Canada take a pause and have a think about how they've been behaving over the past few decades.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, so we teamed up with a guy that used to work with Jeff and I years ago at EA, Rich Curran. And he said, well, let's really kind of figure out how we're going to brand your studio. Let's figure out what names work. And so we had all these different names on a whiteboard, just like everybody comes and participates in. And Timbre is actually kind of a play on words. If you look at how it's spelled, it's R-E, not E-R. And if you're really pronouncing it correctly, it's actually Timbre. It's actually the correct way to pronounce the sound or the tone of something. So when you say, "Oh, I'm listening to that," what's the pitch? What's the timbre? People would often say timbre. It's actually timbre. But we went, well, people call it timbre. Timbre feels like wood. We're on the West Coast. There's tons of wood here, and we felt that the timbre of something, the sound and bringing things together, really kind of started to feel good. And then we had our logo, and our logo was really meant to be all these different colors coming together, and people said, it looks kind of like a campfire, and people like to get around and gather around a campfire. And all the stuff started flowing. And we went, it's Timbre. We're going to call ourselves Timbre. And we asked all the people that we were involved with, and they loved it. And that's why we became Timbre Games.
Interesting. So everything, as always, starts from GDC. We've had our lunches at GDC as well. It's a place to meet and connect. It's also interesting that you started off thinking when you were naming your studio very location based.
Yeah.
I had the same thing. I'm almost like ashamed to say what I wanted to call my studio first. Luckily, there are investors who are like, dude, I don't think this is a very, very good name. I was very big into Vikings.
Yeah.
And I was really, especially the show Vikings, I was like, damn, like Kattegat sounds like such a dope place. Right. Maybe you should call the studio that way. Right. And that town actually doesn't exist except in the show. And like maybe you have like a dragon boat thing on the front. Like Ukraine has that type of thing in the flag where they kind of have a dragon boat on it. That's a good idea. Luckily, the investors, shout out to Play Ventures, were very clear on like that's not the best the name you can go with. Maybe continue thinking. So I get it that starting to think around where you are and really locating, and probably a good thing for you because you've been out of the Vancouver area and coming back and kind of falling in love again with Vancouver is like one of the most beautiful cities for folks who haven't been there. Also a massive gaming scene.
Huge.
Here. So that's another one. Huge gaming.
There's a
bazillion, very booming.
Bazillion game studios. And, even when we were deciding what are we going to call the studio and what does it mean and why are we getting behind this name and what does the logo look like, we did a huge board of all the logos of all the game studios that we could find. And it's so funny because you get some of the logos, which is like, like a skull and a knife with this eye and all that.
Yes. I love it.
And we thought, well, does our name and logo speak to what our values are and speak to the kind of studio that we want to be and whatnot. And, but you're right, there's a ton of studios in Vancouver. And that actually was actually more of a help than hindrance because we looked at what all the studios in Vancouver are doing. It's like, okay, we're not going to do that. Are we going to make? Should we make FIFA? Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Should we make should we get to American shooters? Yeah, probably not. There's great studios.
Contest of Champions. Exactly.
So
yes.
Yeah.
So and that's another point that leads to this conversation is because you're coming out of Vancouver, like your studio is in Vancouver, where there's a lot of game development talent, but also a lot of competition.
Yep.
So I think that's where employer branding really comes to play.
Yep.
And so is that the reason why you invested so much in setting up the logo, setting up the name, really looking at the landscape and kind of finding your niche there?
Well, yeah, we really had to think about what do we stand for and what do we want to be known for and how are we going to get people to walk away from amazing video game companies that already exist. And it was an exercise that we went through because we wanted to be very clear and transparent about the journey of setting up a video game studio. Most video game studios, in my experience, have gone, bam, and there's a launch and there's a logo and there's a whole bunch of guys standing there like doing this, all leaning against each other.
Yeah, the rock band. Like. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that want to know how do you make a video game studio? Like, how does this start? How do you even begin with something like this? So we thought it might be kind of fun to document this and put our vision and values in and really walk the walk about what we say we're going to do and really delivering on that promise of what we're going to do. And man, it's been amazing. Like we cannot keep up with the amount of people that have been calling us that want to work with us. We don't have enough roles for all the people that have applied to us just yet, but we are growing really quickly. And
that's amazing.
The first, I'll give you an example. When we need an IT guy, everybody needs an IT guy, because what's terrifying is I've been kind of like the part-time IT guy, which is just not good on any level. And
time well spent.
Yeah, exactly. there's
the most expensive IT guy in the city.
There's a studio in Vancouver called Adam Hawk is like a concept art house that does work in the part of Sumo. And I happen to know the people there really well. Chris Rowe, who runs that studio, worked with me at Capcom. And they are in the process of looking for the IT specialist as well. And so we went, well, why don't we partner on this and we'll share one. And so let's partner with a recruiting agency that we've hooked up with that is doing a great job for us. Put the thing out, we need an IT guy, and the first day we got like 100 resumes. We're like, oh my God. And, I look at a bunch of IT resumes and I'm like, yeah, this looks pretty cool. There's a lot of letters and pluses and minuses and asterisks on this.
Yeah.
But it's been amazing, really amazing, the response that we've had. And people are coming to us because they're looking for something different. They want to do, we don't like video games, but let's have a great time making video games and let's have a great experience together making games, because you can work just about anywhere, make tons of dough making video games, but it always comes down to the people you work with and the product you make.
Yeah, that's such a good. That's exactly the point. Like people are looking for something different. They're looking for a community. They're looking for yeah. I mean, I think people are looking for a community. Like a lot of the times when I'm going through the hiring and we kind of bring the person in, especially now we can actually bring the person in. Don't have to test anybody or wear a mask.
Right.
So kind of showing what it is like, and that's usually the question where people ask, like, what is it like working at, our company?
Yeah.
That's probably the people ask the same thing, and that's what they want to know. And that's the atmosphere you get when you walk into the studio. You're kind of seeing, could I enjoy my
Right.
time here? So,
well, you talked about
I think
employer
that's,
branding, and that's
yeah.
people think they already know what it's like to work with us before they work with us because of the message that we've been sending out. And you know what? The message that we really do send out, it is hilarious. Like, we laugh ourselves sick every single day. I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous the things we get up to. But we're still making stuff. I mean, we've already signed our first deal. We started our first deal within like 3 weeks of starting the studio with a major AAA publisher. And they came to us and said, yeah, we love what you're doing. We like the message. Do you have people you can work with? Said, yeah, we got these people. We got our folks down at Pipeworks that are part of the journey too. And they went, great, let's do it. I'm like, okay, we got a deal.
We got 3 people. We got 3 people.
Basically, it was 3 of us and the folks on. We ended up signing a deal. Now we're like, okay, this is happening, folks, and careful what you wish for. It's like I'm still figuring out. Okay, what desk should we get? And it's like, oh yeah, by the way, so and that's been flattering and so rewarding.
Love it. How long did you spend? How long did you spend on setting a vision and values for Timbre before kind of announcing and having the coming out party?
I'm going to say we spent a few months on it, back and forth. So awesome. Zoe and Jeff and I were the 3 amigos. Jeff Coates is our creative director for the studio. Jeff and I worked together at Capcom. I hired him to be the studio art director. But Jeff's been in it as long as I have. He's one of the founding creators of SSX and dozens of other games. And he's the one that draws pictures of me wearing jorts for some reason. Ridiculous humiliation comic. He's such a creative guy, and he's got an amazing eye for quality. And it was really important for him what the vision and values were. And so I remember calling Jeff. I was in California. I said, I think I might want to do a thing. Do you want to do a thing? I said, yeah, let's do a thing. I said, okay, I'm not ready yet, but let's talk. And we kept on talking, and here we are. And then Zoe was an easy one. I said to Jeff, I said, hey, you know what? What do you think about Zoe to run production for us? And he goes, oh my God, I love Zoe. And I said, right. And Zoe has been super successful in her career. She brings such an amazing, she brings a wealth of knowledge of everything from proper management of getting a video game done, but also diversity, inclusion, all of the things that people talk about and put things on websites, but sometimes don't always put their best foot forward. Zoe keeps us honest and accountable and in line. And so the 3 of us sat down and said, okay, let's talk about the things that are important to us. And because we've all been doing this for such a long time, we've seen good, bad, and ugly. And we said, okay, these are the things that are important to us. And these are the things we want to bestow upon people so they can they know what it's like to work with us. And so we led with vision and values first. And that's where culture drives creative came from, because the culture of the team is going to drive the final product. So,
of course.
So then, of course, we're all our vision and values out, and who we are, what do we do, and people like it. They want to know what is it like to work in a studio like ours, because they have choices. They have amazing choices, not just in Vancouver, but everywhere in Canada. So we spend a lot of time working on those things.
So, and where did this sort of like appreciation towards employer branding come from? Or, because you clearly spend a lot of time thinking about this, clearly spend a lot of time in strategizing how you're going to stand out, what kind of an employer are you going to be, what kind of values you're going to have. Have you always been this way, or is this a new thing?
I think I've gotten more into it later rather than earlier. One of the amazing things of working at Maxis is, when I got to Maxis, like, I had huge shoes to fill when they hired me. I'm a 6'5" white guy, which there's millions of us around.
But you got a cool tattoo.
Well, there's a tree on it, right? So, and I got a deer in the wall, like a wooden deer. It's like, how can you? So, But yeah, the vision and values are always really important because people want to know where they stand. People want to know, hey, am I doing the right thing? It's more than, hey, did I complete the task? Did I deliver the milestone? They want to know, am I a member of this community? Am I driving the company forward in a good and better way? Because as you know, I mean, you're doing it. As you know, you spend probably more time with the people that you work with in your family often enough. And if you're not
sadly
digging it, and if it's not working, you're going to leave. And so it's really important for us to feel, for everyone that works with us, to feel like they are contributing towards that goal. I learned a lot from EA. I learned a lot from working at Maxis, because Maxis was something completely different than anything I'd ever done. I've worked on everything from FIFA and Champions League and The Simpsons and everything in between, like mowing down zombies, Maxis, all kinds of stuff. And Maxis was such a different product because there's no winner in a Maxis game. There's no winner. It's just it's an experience. And so we went through a lot of branding and vision and value exercises, and able to take a lot of the things that I learned and apply to what we're doing at Timbre.
That's yeah. So essentially, this type of approach came over time, and that's what usually happens. That you get more touchy feely the older, the more years you accumulate in the industry, especially the bigger the companies you work for, because the bigger the company, I think the more convoluted the values are, the more studios you have at different locations, the more different values these studios have. That they're kind of like their mini companies, and then the more locations you have, the more sort of a little bit of a Game of Thrones is going on. Politics comes in. That's totally understandable. That's how people are. That we are very tribal, and I think that probably has influenced you a bit as well, as you've been in big companies and kind of coming back and starting small again. You'd be like, I don't want that. I want to start fresh, and I feel like I need to invest into people, right?
Well, I have a lot of sayings, a lot of weird sayings that whole Canadian thing comes through. But one of the things I used to say a lot is that people that know the least about video games are the people that make video games. And the reason I say that is because sometimes you get people that are so head down in making one kind of game. They have no time to go out and play other people's games and enjoy other people's products because they're so ingrained into the massive product that they make. And it's easy to get tunnel vision. It's easy to be on a track and you think, oh, we make this, and you got to kind of stop and look around and go, oh, there's all these other really amazing games out there. And it's important. I feel anyway, we as a group, our team gets together, we talk about video games all the time. We talk about the games we like. We share games with each other. So we find all these little indie games and you're like, oh my God, this is an amazing indie game. And we end up playing the crap out of it. And we take a little bit from every experience that we have playing other people's games and think about, okay, wow, that really got to me in this part. How can I actually create that in what we're doing?
Yeah, kind of falling back in love with games.
We have one of the things that we've really talked about is you can make video games for a game reviewer, or you can make a video game for a gamer or a person that plays games. And sometimes they're different. Sometimes you go so deep on features that no one's ever going to use to satisfy a Metacritic number. But sometimes you just focus on what that true experience is and just make it really, really awesome. Those are the ones that really kind of break through and have people get excited about it. And one of the values that we have or the vision that we have is we really want to make it easier for people to feel awesome when they play the game. It's not switching it on easy mode, but getting you quick to the fun and making you feel like, man, I'm really enjoying myself and I don't feel like I'm not good enough to play this game right away. And I'm not talking about really super easy one-button games. That's not what we're saying. But there's so many games that I'd love to play. I don't have time to play, right? Like I think this is an amazing game, and I want to play it. I don't have the time to invest in it. EVE Online. Are you kidding me?
Oh no! Somebody, I just had a conversation today about it.
It's an amazing game, and what I find is I really enjoy listening to the experiences that people had playing the game, condensed into small bits. Thinking, that's really cool. I don't know how to do that. But what if you made a game that was able to recreate that experience to make people feel like they got the things that they liked out of it?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be really clear, we ain't making a game like that. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, make it easier for people to feel awesome about what and enjoying the game, and
Yeah, of
making
course.
it deep enough that if you want to take it further, you can. But you can still have a really satisfying experience and not be that great, because we want more people to play games. And if you make it easier for them to get into it, they'll have more fun playing it. You'll make another game play.
Productive sessions, as a product manager would say. You feel good after spending time on it.
Right.
That's a people trait in an audience.
Right.
So I'm too much of a like I've been reading so much audience data, and productivity is a big thing for especially a little bit more mature players like ourselves who don't have infinite time, who may have 1, 2, 3 daughters.
Yeah, exactly.
so we value our productivity. So I wanted to so talking about productivity, how do you measure the effectiveness or the ROI for brand building for your studio? Like, do you look at LinkedIn followers? Do you look at the quantity of applications? Like you mentioned, 100 application for the IT person. Do you look at the quality of applications, or all three?
Yes.
So what are your metrics?
It's kind of all of the above. Each one of us has areas that we kind of lean into. So Jeff Coates is like this, like he's got like thousands of Instagram followers because he's been doing cartoon art and strips for a long time. And, the only person that he has maybe drawn more than me, but that's now not happening, but he was Trump. He used to draw cartoons all the time. Makes sense. But he got all these followers. So Jeff really doubles down and leans in on Instagram, and the Instagram followers, they're all over, that. I focus on LinkedIn because, I really want to bring people on board, and Zoe leans in on other things, right? So each one of us kind of focuses on different areas. And we have a Timbre page, we have a Timbre, page on LinkedIn. We have Timbre everywhere. And then we look at what is working with people, and we look at the things we get the most engagement in. And we find the things that give the most engagement with us is when we're just our normal human selves, and we talk about some of the problems, or we talk about some of the things that we're doing to build a studio, because it's different than a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. Like, you put out something and like, we're hiring, come over to the greatest place ever, and then they'll highlight some exec that used to work at whatever code. Yeah. And they made bazillions of dollars, and they do this thing, and they hold these people on a pedestal. And what we're trying to do, we try to hold all of our people on a pedestal. Like, we just added Leanna. Leanna is an animator. Like, Leanna's got the greatest story everywhere. Her name is Anna. Leanna, she's an animator. Tag is Leanimator. We brought her on board, and we announced her just as if we'd announced, a new creative director for the studio, because she's an amazing part of our studio, and so is Cass. So we hired Cass, and she's done amazing work. We try to highlight everybody to bring a human element of it, and what we're finding is like, wow, they're hiring all these people that seem like good and normal. And the one message that we haven't really beat loudly, like everyone goes with the D word. They talk about diversity, right? Everybody likes to go diversity, and they like to wear that shirt and wear that flag. That shouldn't be. That's normal. That should be just the normal thing. You don't highlight it too hard, because it's like, that's normal behavior. As of today, we are, I think we're 67% women in Timbre Games. And that's awesome. It's not that we set out to hit a particular number, but we are that, and we are finding that we're getting this great talent. And part of it is having Zoe to help us understand how game studios have perhaps incorrectly gone after talent and tried to say, hey, we're diverse and inclusive, and here's your flak jacket and your skull tattoo. We find we get a lot of people going, wow, I want to work there. We had one, I won't get into names, we hired this one person. And we asked this one person why they wanted to work for us. And she teared up. She said, because you guys look like me. And it was a really profound moment. I see a studio that I can see myself in. I see a studio where a bunch of the people that just interviewed me, it feels like me, and I want to work there. And that was really cool.
Yeah.
And so that's a super long-winded answer that I just gave you. You talk about what's really resonating with folks. That every time we announce, we try to announce it in pairs and say we have these 2 new people joining us to really not to say, hey, look at us, look at how diverse we are. People are figuring it out by all the announcements we make. Say, wow, there are 2 more. Hey, last week I heard a woman, and it's not about look at us, we're hiring women. I'm talking about it. I'm making it sound like that, but it's 2021.
You're raising a very important topic, because this is something that I've been talking, like, we don't have enough women in our company, I'll be honest. And I kind of sat down, I've actually recorded already a podcast with some of the women in the industry, working at different companies. And I was like, hey, how can we hire more women? Because the women in our company, and even women who have been contracting with our company, have expressed that they like working with us, they join us, but then on the outside, we had this, the skull and bones kind of approach. And you're absolutely right with that. Like, I'm actually in the process of totally redesigning, talking to, being very inclusive to the folks in the company that we have, but especially talking to my female coworkers, trying to understand like how we should change. Because the fact is, like, the diversity, whatnot, the fact is, in my experience, women are no better than men, but they're no worse. They're equal. So the fact that we can't hire enough women means that we're missing out on a huge percentage of potentially really great candidates, because every female that we've hired has been fantastic. Yep. And we definitely, so you've done a great job. And I think what you mentioned in the beginning is part of your founding team was a female, and since the beginning, you were able to position yourself in a way that it's not off-putting. Your job ads are not aggressive. No. They don't talk about superstars. They don't talk about veterans. They don't talk about any of that, but they are normal. And normality is like one of the things that has come up with a lot of females that apply for different jobs. They find this sort of a jargon of how would I put it, status, quite off-putting and intimidating, and they end up not applying. Versus with men, like sometimes if you're looking for a lead product manager, sometimes just put in a director of product management and you'll get a lead applying for that position because he wants to go up, and then you end up hiring that person as a lead, and maybe they will grow to a director of product. But with women, it's a totally different approach. And then the language that you use overall in your site and so forth, that matters. And finally, like what you have been doing really well, this is just me kind of reciting what I've learned and what I'm going to put into action, is like showing as much as possible of what it is like working at your company, showing pictures, showing videos, kind of like giving a glimpse of what it's like, so that it doesn't feel that intimidating and it's much more welcoming. And through that, hopefully one day we'll get applicants who would say, I want to work here because you guys look like me.
Yeah, and it's still a business. It's still going to make good video games, right?
Yeah.
We haven't announced what we're making, but we're, people say, oh my God, I want to work there. It's like, okay, yeah, it looks really cool and it's fun, and we're super diverse, and blah, blah, blah. But we do make video games. We work really hard. We've all been doing it for a long time, so we know how to make good video games. And,
of course.
So there will, obviously the time will come when we announce, here's what we're working on, or look at all this cool stuff that we're doing, and then that whole kind of picture will be complete. But people will kind of say, yeah, well, what have you guys done? It's like, well, we're actually actively really working hard on a whole bunch of stuff right now. We just can't talk about it like everyone. But rather than lead with, hey, here's the game that we make, let's lead with, here's who we are. And then, by the way, when you talk to us, we show you what we're actually making. You'll go, oh yeah, I'd like to work there, and I'd like to make that thing. You don't have to be hyper aggressive and to make a AAA product. And we have found we've turned products down. I can't believe me saying this. We have turned products down, and people have come to us and said, we'd like you to make this with us. And I'm like, yeah, we can't do that. I said, why not? It's because that's not our jam. It's not our vibe. I said, yeah, but look at all these millions of dollars. I'm like, lots of millions of dollars. To make someone else.
Yeah, it's a zombie mowing game. But it's fun, and you feel good.
It is. It's a good way to make a living. We get people that call.
Of course.
Oh my God, I wish I knew what you guys do. It's like, well, you can.
So how much time you spend in recruiting, and would you recommend other executives to use similar amount of time or less time or more time in your position? Are you spending just the right time?
Inordinate amount of time. Really. To recruit, because we're recruiting the leadership of the studio right now, and more of the senior folks, and I need to make sure I spend that extra time really leaning in to make sure that they are the right people, that they're going to represent the studio properly. But even though Zoe and I and Jeff and now Keith, our tech director, have large networks, we can't really go after our networks because we've all worked at companies, and I don't want to do that, nor can I do that. I'm not going to phone up EA and rattle the chain and say, "Hey, we have one down there. You want to do here?"
Yeah,
we don't do that. We have people come to us, but we ended up hiring a recruiting agency because we couldn't keep up with the demand, and they're called RHUM. And what was interesting, we were interviewing them because we're paying the bill, we're going to hire them to do our recruiting with us, and we thought, okay, we really like them, let's work with them. And we found out later that they were actually interviewing us, whether or not they liked us or not, because they turned clients away, and they've been really helping us. So what they've been doing is they've been helping source candidates and kind of pre-vet some candidates before I really lean in on it. But each one of us, in the leadership team, spends a lot of time recruiting because we need to make sure we can find the best possible talent to make the kind of products that we want. And it's, man, what a hard lesson we've all had to learn, because just as well as anyone, you have friends that are in the industry, and your friends will look to you and say, "You're my friend. You're totally going to hire me, right?" And sometimes you have to go, "Yeah, I'm not hiring you." And it's the hardest thing to do, because sometimes you had friends you worked with years ago and they were amazing at what they did, but then years go by, and then you look at where they are and where you're going, and people change, and then and people have expectations. "Yeah, but we're tight, right? You're totally hiring me." And like, I'm actually not going to hire you because you're my really good friend, but you don't do the thing that I need right now, so I'm not. And that's been really challenging.
Even tougher thing is letting go of your friends.
Oh my God, absolutely. I had to do it. I had to do it a couple times at EA.
Yeah,
and I was like so bad. And it's like, but then years go by, and then you pass that person at E3 or GDC, and I think, okay, this person's going to punch me in the throat. It's like, nope, like you move on, and it's okay.
Yeah. It's letting anybody go is like super difficult. Like one thing that I've really leaned in nowadays is just I work twice as hard to help the person find their next position if they're being let go than I worked to get them join us.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important, because maybe it's just the guilt, but I also kind of like wanted to, there's no bad blood after that.
Right.
And it opens up, in my opinion, because in Finland, I don't know what the employment laws are in Canada. Is it at will employment or?
It's not easy to say goodbye to someone in Canada. There's a lot of steps you have to.
Okay, so we have the same thing here. Like once the probation period ends, you're married. Yeah. Good luck. So probation periods are taken extremely serious. We have a 6-month probation period in Europe as it is, and we have to take it extremely seriously. And a lot of companies don't, especially at scale, they don't do that. I think it's a little bit foolish, and we have to. So every time, like if that 6 month didn't work out, like there's different options. Of course, you can prolong it, saying like, hey, your cat died. I know it was a bad situation. You had a good start, kind of dipped. That was the cat. Do you want to kind of give it another go and continue? We'll continue this or otherwise. And also there's a situation where somebody just clicks immediately and delivers extremely well. So you just want to cut the probation time. Like, you're good. Welcome to the team. But then there are the situations when somebody comes in and they just can't find their spot and can't really deliver, and you have to make that call. Right. And I think a lot of people who work at larger companies who are not, really sitting on the P&L, not really thinking long term, they don't want to do the uncomfortable thing. So they're like, it's fine. We'll just hire somebody above them or next to them or, below. Like, we'll do something where that person, he's not like, she or he is not that negative. Like, they're okay. It's fine. Let's keep them.
Right.
I think that's very foolish.
As you know, I spent a lot of time in Helsinki because Track 20 rolled up to me at Maxis. And I remember the first time I went to Helsinki and I met all the Finns at Track 20. And it's like this big loud Canadian, he shows up and he's like, blah, blah, blah. And he's talking to the whole team. You know, I'm the new guy. And, you know, the other guy was moving on to something else. And of course, it's like, man, like, I didn't know what to expect when I got to Finland, but man, I miss them. I miss the Finns so bad. I really do, because they were just so. I got to know them because they were so different than anything I'd ever experienced. And so I finished my whole preamble and blah blah blah. I said, "Okay, are there any questions?" And it was like
silence.
They just stared at me.
So
one of the things I did have a conversation with a bunch of people. I said, look, here's where we're going. This is what we're going to do. If anybody doesn't want to do that and they think that, man, I'm going to hate this, I think I might want to quit. I said, have a conversation with me first. And if you want to quit, and it's because you think it's something that's maybe, you have a viewpoint that's not correct or something, then let's talk about it. But if you really don't want to be here and, you're a decent person, let me help you find a landing pad. Let me put some effort into helping you with my network, get you a job outside of the studio. And it's really weird when a couple of people take you up on it. And then, of course, the second time you visit, you go, oh my God, Joe's going to let everyone go. I was like, I'm not letting anyone go. I'm just here to have a conversation with people. And it was really good. And it builds trust. And that's how you build relationships. Sometimes one of the greatest people ever in the studio will be even greater doing something else at a different studio. And sometimes it doesn't work for you, and you can see that. You're not asking for thanks later, but you know that deep down, like, I'm so glad that I've gone up to do this other thing, because, as you know, you can see things in people and how they work that they can't see themselves, and often some people around them can't see. And you can think, man, you'd be so much better doing your own thing, or you'd be so much better doing X or Y. Sometimes you give them a nudge, and a lot of time they need it and they're happy about it.
Yeah, and it's also just finding yourself in a little bit of in a situation where you can't win. Like sometimes people want to take a position that they can't succeed. And then there's a little bit of an ego where they still think they can do it. And at that point, it's just good to have a conversation. Like, I don't think it's not you. It's where you are. I don't think you're going to win, and just think about it and come back tomorrow or at the end of the week. And let's talk about the next things, because I doubt it. Not going to happen. Like, you don't have the qualities, or the organization is too different. But anyways, it's a tough situation. Yeah. It's always tough. I don't know, like, I don't know anybody who enjoys fighting except Donald Trump. You mentioned him. You mentioned him before that was a comic. I think that's the only person in the world that actually has made it into a brand. But it's extremely tough. It's extremely tough, especially since we're in these type of positions where we actually put in a lot of work to get that person in, and really put in a lot of work to make them fit in and make them succeed in the position that they've taken. So yeah, very, very important part. For sure. So I wanted to kind of a little bit shift our discussion about mission, values, all this super touchy-feely stuff, because, like, a lot of the times people feel like this whole employer branding is just a very functional thing. It's what you do to lower the cost of workforce acquisition and maybe improve your retention of like, extremely functional. But I think it's more than that. I think it's in a big way an extension of the company culture, and the employer brand should very much mirror the existing and the aspiring values of the company values and the mission. So with that kind of lead in, how did you as studio co-founders align on the company mission and the values, or the studio mission and the values?
So again, we all been doing this a long time, and we thought about what are the things that we really hated about making video games, what are the things we liked about making video games. We're going to have a list of all the things we liked about it, and then all the things we didn't like about it. And we said, okay, what are the behaviors that we've seen that cause the things that you don't like about it? and kind of looked at those things. That okay, can we find a way to diffuse those problems and lean in on the other things? Happier people do better work. People that feel included and part of a community do greater work, and it's infectious to other people. We're all remote right now. We're not in an office right now. We're all remote.
Oh, you are?
We're going to stay remote. We're waiting to get an office, right? But we want to make sure we find the right office with the right amount of people, and we're going to be a hybrid approach. We're going to have. There's some people who will never come to the company. There are some people that will just be remote all the time, and we've got a couple of people that don't. Well, we have a person in Montreal. We have another contract person that is doing some work with us. We are going to embrace, if you want to come into the office and do it, go for it. If you don't want to come into the office, you want to come in for just company meetings or what have you, you can do that too. We're going to really lean into the hybrid role. People like to say hybrid, but hybrid means different things to different people. But I want to give people that option the choice. Would you like to work like this? And if it works out well, then great. Then they can stay like that. But really leaning into the things that we enjoyed about all of the companies that we worked at, and then the things that we didn't enjoy. Let's figure out how do we work around that. So, we have a lot of values that we push. Like, we consider ourselves pursuers of fun, because it's video games. I mean, come on, it's a video game. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to make you stressed out, cramp up every time you got to play. It's supposed to be enjoyable. So let's lean into that. We think another thing that
pursuer of fun. I like that. Way better than deconstructor of fun.
We consider ourselves pursuers. We consider ourselves visionary explorers. We're going to grab the machete and go through the forest. We don't know what we're going to find in all cases, but let's have a look. And we might find this is a really dumb idea or is a really great idea. But if we just sit back and don't do anything, you can guarantee the results will be we didn't do anything. One thing that we have as a value, which Zoe actually came up with, and we kind of thought about it and said, yeah, that's really dope, is clarity. We think we need to be creators of clarity. And what that really means is people want to know what's expected of them at work. They want to know, what am I supposed to do? Do I know where we're going? Do I know why we are going to do that? And that's all the people that work for us, but it's also the people that play our games. Like, what am I doing in the game? How do I know where to go? And that's, the UI and UX. But we think clarity is really important, because how many times have you sat down with a game that everyone's playing and you feel like you're the only idiot that doesn't know how to do the one thing because it's not, all these UX people that give you this amazing journey, but there's the thing that you missed because you skipped past one button press a couple screens ago and you can't get forward? We think it's a really important thing to make sure that everybody knows where to go and how to succeed. Not how to win, not how to, easily do it, but how to get there. And it's the same thing for the people that work with us. How do I know what I'm doing is the right thing and I'm doing the right work? But what's my path? I can tell you, half the people that have come to work with us have come to work with us because we have given them, in their opinion, a path of how they can grow their career. And the companies they were at, they felt they were not going anywhere, and they didn't even know how to get where they were thinking they wanted to go. So we are trying to provide a very clear path for someone that comes in as X and they want to get to Y.
I like that clarity. It's so much better than transparency. Nobody's transparent.
Oh my God.
Like, what are you talking about, transparency?
Yeah, transparency is just like, people like transparency, but they're really not, right?
No.
So we went with
no.
Just to make sure people hold us accountable with that. We consider ourselves diversity champions. Not that we are. We champion it. We are not champions of it. We champion the push towards it. And having the right conversation with the right people, because there's nothing worse than it's funny because there's Jeff and I and Zoe and Keith are the four founders, and Jeff and I and Keith laughs like, okay, you got the three whitest guys ever, and then you've got Zoe, and we're making sure that we do not just we get counsel on, are we doing this right? Am I using the right language? How do I know I'm going the right path? We have a lot of people that tell us. I mean, our staff now, they tell us right away. It's like, you can't say that. Or you shouldn't go that way. Or that.
Oh no, your staff is language policing you?
Language policing, but just kind of like, say, how should I say this? And you should say it this way. I'm like, and we're not afraid to tell each other as a group whether we're doing a good job or a bad job. And nothing's like, there's some people that can't handle a compliment, right? I could say, Jeff, I thought what you did today was amazing. Like, I thought that pitch was incredible, and like, I'm so grateful to work with you. And people go, oh my God, whatever. And like, you get embarrassed by that. But we're so used to giving people feedback on both levels on that's just become natural. And so if we think we're being diverse, maybe we're not. We think that we are making strides to be a diverse studio. It's easy for me to say, hey, we're 67% female. That's kind of a big deal in video game land, but
it's a big deal.
It's not. We're not hanging on that, right? Like, it's like, do we have people of minorities working with us? And minorities in Vancouver are different than minorities in other cities, because every city's got a different demographic makeup.
Yeah.
And there's one of the Sumo studios is called the Chinese Group, and they put out this video that was amazing. And they're talking about bringing in interns and people that want to join the workforce. And they said, hey, are you in a different field? Would you like to try working with something like us? We'd like to hear from you. Are you just starting out in your career and want an internship? We'd like to hear you. Are you a mature person that has been doing something else for 30 years and just hate your life and want to do something else? Let's find out if is there a path here for you? And that, I'm an older guy. And I went, that speaks to a lot of people that I know that think that they have no future. They cannot do this because they've been working at X and they can never do anything creative like this. And really, they are actually very creative and they don't think they can get it. So it's not diversity, it's like sometimes the diversity is invisible. And we need to make sure we have the right platform.
I like to also just talk about the diversity of mind because Vancouver could be a great example. It's quite a diverse city. A lot of Asian people live in Vancouver. But if you go down to the ground level, like, you might look different, but you went to the same schools. Like, you're really Canadian. Like, you're born here. You watch hockey. You like the Canucks. It's like there's not much different ways of thinking. Maybe your parents were thinking differently. But you for sure are very Canadian. So that might not bring that much diversity.
We do the 3 Ps. We have the 3 Ps of diversity, and it's people, product, and places. Diverse people, diverse products, and diverse places where we make them. We're just getting rolling in Vancouver. Like, that's where we're starting. But we are looking at other places in British Columbia, whether it's Vancouver Island, the interior of this province, and then we're looking east. We're looking east to see where we bring people on board to this Timbre group. When Simpsons tapped out, made by a whole pile of people in Prince Edward Island out on the east coast of Canada, right? Who would have thought? Like, the Helsinki of Canada, maybe. But there's a great group of mobile talent there that doesn't want to leave there. It's like, why do I have to leave? It's mobile talent. I can do this work. Why do I have to go move to a big city to do the work that I'm doing just fine here? And so we look at these little pockets of talent across Canada. That's what I've got my head set at. It's like, we're starting in Vancouver. Now, unfortunately, Canada is like the longest country to get across. It takes 8 hours just to fly across it. But there's lots of places. And so we want to bring in the diverse locations as well as people.
All right. Winnipeg, Edmonton, Calgary, everything in the middle, brace for impact.
But what's really fun is video games for the longest time been so West Coast. It's always been the West Coast. And then I look at something like Toronto. Why does Toronto have like very few video game companies per capita?
But Montreal has a lot.
Yeah, they do. But Montreal has a couple of sneaky things because Montreal, of course they've got Ubisoft, and they've got my friend Patrick Klaus over at Motive, and
Square Enix, Gameloft,
and Eidos, which is making waves with their 4-day work week. Awesome, but they also have really amazing tax credits. Like the tax credits in restaurants.
Yes.
Stupid. It's like incredible tax credits, and
Yes.
that's why it makes a lot of sense to go there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll look at everything in between too.
Yeah, it's cheaper to hire in Montreal than it is in Romania.
Right.
So people who don't know where Romania is, you're not. I can't say you're not missing out, but you're not missing out. Let's just they're not on the forefront in the European Union. Great place. Nothing against Romanians. Amazing people, but maybe not the wealthiest country of them all. Let's put it this way: ex-Soviet Union country.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but yeah, there's we think that there's lots of different places to make video games, lots of ways to make video games, and people. I'm probably the 10 millionth person to say this, but the pandemic did kind of show people that we are in a bulletproof industry and we actually can do it from home. I was marveling at EA because when the pandemic hit, I remember sitting down with my boss and she said, "Okay, we're all gonna have to go home for 2 weeks." Like 2 weeks. But how EA mobilized, everyone's machines getting sent to their home, getting all the proper networks and security protocols in place, and they shipped FIFA. Like, oh my God, how did that even happen? Everyone worked from home. They got the biggest game in the world.
Let's be honest. It's the same game every year. I love it. I love it. But let's be absolutely honest. And the content kind of makes itself, if you will. I mean, there are just players who are being traded to different clubs. So shout out to FIFA. I play the game every week. I love it. It's the same game. Let's not kid ourselves.
Every year goes into it for sure, but yeah, you're right. I mean, there's there's over here. I mean, I understand that, right? But,
yeah, exactly. They made an update. They made a big update. Yeah, exactly. So kudos to them.
But yeah,
they've done it also 20 years in a row.
Yeah,
so
I know. I did about seven of those years I worked on too. So
yeah, it's my favorite game. Like honestly, out of all of them, I love it even more than NHL, and I love it despite never watching football or soccer. I don't know which one it's called in Canada.
We call it soccer in Canada, but yeah.
Okay.
It's football, right? But
couldn't care less about soccer, but I love FIFA. Yeah, could not care at all.
Also, how many people play that? I've never even seen the snow, right? So
exactly. So a fantastic game. Shout out to the team. Anyway,
the one thing that one thing we just wanted to hit on too as well is that we believe that everything that we are going to create in video game land is going to have a longer tail. It's about building relationships with your customers, players. So we're really leaning in on our community because people again, more buzzwords, use generated content and all that kind of stuff. It is what it is. They're going to generate their own stuff, and I find and have found that you make the game, you put the game out, you do some updates, and you have some live service, and people are going to do what they're going to do with it, and it's actually usually the most interesting stories with the people that didn't make the game, that bought the game, and what they did with it becomes super interesting. And we think that is absolutely the future, whether you're talking about a long tail with lots of updates or a way that people can express themselves. And, I'm not even going to get into blockchain, but like the whole blockchain thing about it actually preserves authenticity and rarity and security. I mean, blockchain's a good buzzword, but it really is a very powerful system. And if you can use it properly, it's going to be used in ways that we can't even think about right now. So we really believe that a lot of what we're going to be doing in Timbre is just not fire and forget. We're going to put the game out or games out and have a relationship with the community and make sure that we listen to them because you know what? The community is usually right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they pay your bills. How does, Timbre is a part of Sumo and Pipeworks. How do you align your values with the sort of corporate values and corporate mission? Like, is there any overlap or how does that work?
Well, I know for one thing that we discovered, we've been working with Pipeworks for a while, and then when Sumo came into the picture, I had to meet Carl and Paul. In fact, I'm pretty sure we're getting T-shirts made for them that says I greenlit the stupid studio and all I got was it. No, I greenlit the studio and all I got was a T-shirt. Sumo it does so much more than I ever thought they do. They have a great community outreach. They really lean in on important topics. They invest in their people. They invest in educating their people with stuff called Dojo and Udemy. Like, it's all this online learning and learning that is relevant, not just, stupid learning that you could just have a certificate that you got and you never use it. And man, I'm so impressed with how Sumo has leaned in on supporting their people. I didn't really know a ton about them. I knew about them 100 years ago when I first worked a little bit with them on FIFA. But man, they really care about their people, and they really care about their community, and they're making great strides. I really admire them. I can't believe how much they align with us. So when we were leaning in and looking at what our vision and values were, and having conversations with Carl and Paul in particular, they're saying, we love what you guys are saying. In fact, when they shared their vision and values, there was some stuff that they shared with us that I thought that, wow, we thought we came up with that, and actually they had too. And there's a great alignment there. So that's been really refreshing. They really do. They really care about the folks. And every studio, 14 of them, or 15 now, they're all different, but they all kind of have that aligned sense of connection to each other. So that's been cool.
Yeah. I was just looking at the website. It's really cool.
Yeah, you know what? Like, they celebrate people joining the studio, and we love that. And they've been reaching out to us all the time. They're like, "Oh my God, this is really cool. We love what you guys are doing. Can't wait to meet you guys in person. Welcome to the family." We feel like we've known them for a lot longer than we have. I remember Carl sent me the values that they had, and I had a bunch that I had drafted up for Maxis that obviously I kept the values in my head. And one of the values was almost word for word the same one, and this is the one we thought that we came up with, but Carl did too, and his team. That's always assume good intent. And I really love that one because most people are really good people, and most people want the best for their companies. And sometimes they slip up, but always assume they're doing it with the right intent to make something better. So always assume that everyone's working with the best intent. And if there are slip ups, you can say, "Well, what did you mean by that?" So I was doing this. I was like, "Oh, I thought you were going that way." And when you assume good intent with folks, they tend to honor that and reward it. So we've been super excited about working with Sumo.
That's awesome. And regarding your values, like how do you really, like, a lot of people, let's be honest, I've been at the companies where the values have been made among the executives and kind of like, distributed downstream, and the values have been even made in a way that they were just voted. Like, integrity sounds cool, let's just put it in there. That way, instead of really thinking about what the company does and what the vision for it and so forth. So those would be kind of sad experiences. But how do you communicate and enact company values at Timbre, especially being remote? Like, that must be somewhat challenging, right?
It is. But we have found using technology to remain constantly connected to everybody. It's been a little bit easier. Obviously, when we've had the new people join us, we kind of walk them through in their onboarding. These are our vision and values. It's on our website. We've got some vision and values in there as well. But whether it's we use Slack, whether there's a bunch of huddles going on in Slack, or we just have these different channels where we're always trying to get together. We get together virtually, all of us, at least once or twice a week, where we all talk about different things. We play games together. We've been playing Worms, which is just like such a great game. Like, Worms is just a great game.
I know, it's so good.
I hadn't played it for a really long time. I just started playing it again. And it's hilarious because some people had never played it. Like, oh my God, this is the greatest game! And it's the conversations we have. We all go out for lunch every couple of weeks. The whole team gets together, and we get out and we talk. And what we found is that remote's okay right now. It is not how we're going to stay. We are going to have an office where people are going to come in when they need to. There's going to be some people who will be in there every day. One of our employees actually used to go into the office where she used to work basically by herself, and there was one other person there because she just needed to know there was someone else like there to kind of talk with and hang with, because she's a very social person. And when we get the office, which will be in the new year, we fully anticipate people are going to spend more time together. But it's really, we talk about it all the time, and we're constantly asking, say our employees, feels kind of like hierarchical, but we ask the team, it's cool. Like, do you feel like, are we acting this way? Are we doing the right thing? And they have great conversations with us. It's like, we've all worked in companies where, getting to chat with the boss is like, we have to talk to their executive assistant, and they'll fit you in at a certain time. Maybe. And I have felt that even at EA, to be forever to talk to some of the people that, were like, 15 feet away. I hated that. And I never want us to be like that. So people talk to us all the time, and they say, we can't believe we're allowed to talk to you guys the way we talk to each other.
Yeah. Well, that will change. That will change with all the growth. Sure. But I think I think so.
But I mean, you can not level.
Yes, I know. And despite how accessible you are, and you want to be, still new people, like when Timbre is hundreds of people, they will still look at Joe like a big boss. Oh my God, he's coming here from Vancouver. We're down here in Sasquatch. I'm just going Sasquatch or
better job than the dudes in Orleans.
Yeah, I'm really trying to figure out like the most difficult Canadian town name. That's where you need to put in the studio. But anyways, like when you be coming in, and it will be same like probably like in Helsinki. Like you come in and people are just quiet and they kind of look at you and try to assess. But what really helps, I think, is those game nights, because when you can play with your boss, there's no hierarchy in that. Hit him with a baseball bat and worms. Let him fly into the water.
Some people have said, "Hey, are you okay with the Jeff draws you?" And I'm like, "It would matter for me, because Jeff just decided one day that he was going to draw me with George. I've never won, ever. But he thought it'd be funny if he did it one day. It's become this thing, and there is a certain approachability that we have created by making cartoon versions of ourselves. It's funny. I was out. I was walking down the street near my house. I was walking to a grocery store, and I ran into a colleague of mine that actually does business development with me, and his wife was with him. And I've never met his wife, and I didn't see him right away, but she saw me, and she goes, "Oh my God, are you Joe?" And I'm like, she goes, "I recognize you from the cartoon." And Rob goes, "Oh, hey."
Oh, no.
Like, his wife recognized me from the cartoon before Rob, who was my colleague, recognized me as a human.
And she recognized you even without the jorts.
Without the jorts. Yeah. But it's become this kind of... it's become this... it kind of breaks the ice, right? A little bit with people, because they meet us and they go, "Wow, you kind of look exactly like me."
Yeah, it's like when you can...
6'2", she's tall. We make Joe out to be like he's 3 feet tall. In fact, there's a cartoon. We got him in a baby Bjorn. He's like 6 feet tall, but we perpetuated this myth that he's like really small. But it's first people say to us when we interview them, literally every time people talk to us on Zoom, they go, "How tall are you guys?" Because they think that we're just...
So and I mean, it's just such a great way that you're kind of laughing, at yourself and with each other, and that just shows the culture and makes you much more accessible. So I totally understand. How are you going to uphold these values as your team grows? Like, how do you make sure that this culture that you've built, that you've set up, will be there despite the rapid growth that you're seeing now and probably will see in the future?
It takes discipline. It takes having difficult conversations with the founders. We've had a couple conversations together where we said, we're really not acting the way that we're supposed to act in this regard. We've had some of those, and it's just kind of like a check and balance that we have. Every studio that I've worked at, when I was at Capcom, every Friday at 11 o'clock, the entire staff got jammed into the cafeteria, and I'd stand up in front of them and I would talk to them about all the things, the wins and losses and things that we had during the week. And it started out, it was just the Joe show. It'd be like, I'd be out there talking. And over time, they became more comfortable with it. And then all the staff would come up and present all these different things together. And it became this natural reflex. We all got together on Friday. Sometimes we talk for 10 minutes. Sometimes we talk for 2 hours. And we try to foster that sense of community with the teams. And I think that we'll do it again. I did it with Maxis, although Maxis was way, way bigger and way more terrifying when I first got there. I had to go to the auditorium. I got on stage in front of like 200 people that didn't know me. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have to try and win them over. And I said some stuff that pissed them off and said some stuff that they liked. But they always knew that they could have that conversation with me. And all of the all of us founders have aligned on that. We will not ever intentionally get to the point where we're feet up on the desk chomping on a cigar and no, you can't see Joe, he's too busy, right? We're not going to do that. We want people to always have that connection to us and hold us accountable because they have choices. They can say, you know what? When it came to the values, I'm going to go work at the coalition.
Yeah, I do. So one of the, like, I was reading the book No Rules, and the CEO of Netflix was talking about how many one-on-ones he does a year. I believe it was 500, because that's the amount of sort of like VPs or directors he has. I think he goes down to the director level and has at least 1 hour of one-on-one, and I think that's a pretty powerful message because you can't expect that people will come to you as the organization grows, no matter how many cartoons you draw of yourself or how accessible you are and how many highs you say. Like, you actually have to take the time of scheduling an hour in somebody's calendar, maybe even once a year, hopefully like at least once a quarter, and just spending that time. And it's time spent. Like it's probably not the thing you think you need to be doing. Is like, next week I'm gonna do 20 hours of 101s. It's like, really?
What could be considered a chore for the head of a studio can sometimes be the highlight of someone's month.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't do it.
I said, I'm going to have a one-on-one with every single person at Maxis. You're crazy.
Yeah.
It took me 8 months to have a one-on-one with every single person at Maxis, but I did. And some are just like, oh, I don't want to talk to you while you're talking to me. I don't like it.
Yeah. So
that's okay. Okay. You can just go.
Okay. Maybe finding a balance between that. So everybody who's listening, sometimes you can have a group on one. Just maybe like invite several people.
We started it with one-on-ones because I was a new person and I had everything like.
Yeah.
I remember I had a meeting with a woman that worked at Maxis, and I had just started, and she was reporting to me. And I could tell it was a weird situation. I could just feel this really weird vibe. And I said, so what's going on? What's on your mind? She goes, can I just be honest with you? I went, well, I would hope you would always want to be honest with me. She goes, okay. She goes, I'm really disappointed that you're not a woman, that we didn't hire a woman. I'm like, oh, okay. And I was okay with it because it was the first time I'd ever experienced a form of discrimination, I guess, that tons of other people have faced forever. And I thought, well, thanks for having the courage to say that to me, and I will show you and I will earn my respect with you that, I'm not who you wanted. And that was okay. And we ended up becoming friends and, having a decent relationship. But what we did after, as a group, I just like you said, a group on one, I changed it to Ask Me Anything. And every Friday I would go into one of the meeting rooms at EA and it'd be like at 4:00. And we sit back and I just sit there, and anyone that wanted to come and talk about anything, we would do.
Yeah, I like that.
The leadership team, and so it became Ask Us Everything, and we did it every Friday. And they just did. Sometimes no one showed up, and sometimes tons of people showed up, but we were always there, and they felt that we had access. We're going to do the same thing in Timbre.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I do have to say that whole thing is like, I'm disappointed. Like, you're not a woman. That's insensitive. That's like, you just started at a new place that is very intimidating, very big, very intimidating, and just discriminating somebody on their sex. It's like, that's not okay.
But you know what I thought?
That's totally not okay.
And I said, wow. I said, that's amazing that no one's ever said anything like that to me. But I said, I imagine that's how you must have felt so many times in your career, but no one actually said it. And she said, yeah. And I went, okay, well, I said, do you think we're going to be okay? I said, do you think we're going to find a path to each other and talk about this? And she goes, yeah. She just, I just felt I had to tell you. I didn't actually want them to hire you. I wanted the other person. Like, okay, that's okay. Let's have that conversation. And we did. And she's gone on to great success. She ended up leaving, going to a different company and crushing it. And didn't leave because I was there. She left because she was probably going to do something else that I knew she would do.
Yeah. Still, I don't encourage anybody to do that. That's insensitive.
It's not a great icebreaker.
like it's just not like, since when that is a great start for a relationship, especially with your boss.
Yeah.
It's like, great that you feel some type of way, but don't insult other people.
Yeah.
Like, there's no right to insult other people, and that is an insult, to be honest.
Yeah, but I will never, ever forget that moment. I'll never forget it.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't either. And I have to say you're a better man. Because like, I don't know, like I feel that that's just too insulting with no reason. With, like, you don't know the other person anyway, and you just decide to discriminate on that person. So that's just plain discrimination. Yeah. That's it.
But
like, I wouldn't.
One thing that we've really asked for support and help on, and this is what Sumo's been helping us with this, and as have the employees brought in, is that kind of a little bit, everyone has unconscious bias, whether they want to believe it or not. Learning how to recognize that, to be better and rise above that. I think that's been the most interesting learning, certainly, as we've started this new studio. But all the stuff that goes along with starting a studio is, as you know, I mean, you're doing it, but like, it's all the stuff that goes along with starting a studio. It's like, okay, what are you going to make? We're going to make a video game. It's going to be a mobile game. It's going to be a PC console, whatever. It's going to be a game. Okay, we're going to do this stuff, and this is the kind of business we're in. But it's all the other stuff that people don't realize that goes into making a game or a game studio. All the stuff that people, those guys just sit around with their feet up and just, they just print money and make all this stuff, and they're just, it's like, oh yeah, we just print money. It's hard work, but a lot of the work that goes into it is just, it's all the people stuff. It's all the people stuff.
Yeah.
Connecting with people and realizing that no one in the world really gives a crap what game you worked on last. They really don't care. I mean, the only people that care about it are recruiters and the industry people. It's like, oh, let's talk to Mishka. You worked on this game. It's like, they're the people. Your average person in the street, your average Bjorn walking down the road in Helsinki doesn't care. I don't know. John, I just want to know the game you do.
We don't have much Bjorns, but I'll take it. No, you're absolutely right. And I think it was really important to have this discussion with you because you have such a deep, a wealth of experience in the industry, incredibly respected in the industry as well. A super nice person. Everybody who's been listening to this would be like, Joe sounds like the coolest guy ever. And he is. He even looks like the coolest guy for anybody watching the YouTube. It's really, go ahead.
One thing I say to people all the time. I am actually not very good at making games. I'm really not.
I wanted to get into that. Like that's exactly where I was heading. I wasn't heading into saying you're not good at making games. I was heading into the longer you are in the industry, the more important are the touchy-feely skills over the technical skills, over your deep meta understanding and over the understanding of the nuances of the performance marketing. Right. Et cetera, et cetera. The more important, the more you kind of take leadership roles, the more important is the actual people skills. Right. And some people just kind of don't get it. They assume the higher you get, the smarter you get, and the more money you will print and lean back in your chair. But actually, no, the more time you will end up spending in dealing with people issues. That's what happens.
It's my favorite part of the job.
Like,
when I tell people, I remember getting interviewed at this. I remember getting interviewed by Patrick Soderlund. You want to have a tough interview? Interview Patrick Soderlund when he's interviewing you. It's like, holy crap! The guy's like 6'10", walking jawline, walks into the window. Okay, but I tell everyone that I'm not very good at making games. What I am, though, getting pretty good at is building teams, building good teams that do make good games. And there's all kinds of people who look at mentorships and I've mentored people as well. And it's really funny. we were joking about it. I was the mentoring program at EA, and they would assign me some people. Every single person that I mentored quit and went to another company.
Oh no!
I'm like, maybe that was actually the job. Maybe people were coming to ask me permission. I really want to do this. I'm going to go do this. I'm like, hey, don't look at me.
Yeah.
Go crush it.
Yeah.
And it's not like I encourage.
Fly. You'd be like,
but it is those. It is the people stuff. I have been so lucky to work with so many really, really amazing people. People that I used to bounce on my knee at EA and that have gone off to amazing other things. And to think that I had a very small part, perhaps, in the development of that person at one point. And every now and then you run into someone you used to work with. They said, "Oh my God, remember when you told me that thing?" And I'm like,
no.
You know, a colleague of mine that works in the UK. It's a bit of a humble brag. It's not meant to, but it was so amazing. Out of the blue, I haven't talked to her in years, but I used to work with her at Microsoft. And she sent me a note. And she said, "You know what? I've been watching what you guys have been doing, and I just really wanted to thank you for something that you probably don't even remember." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Remember when we went to Starbucks and I had that presentation that I had to work on, and I was really nervous, and I didn't know how I was going to get through the presentation, and you sat and you rehearsed it with me, and we walked through it, and you told me, look at it this way and present it this way." And she said, "And I did, and I crushed it." And she goes, "I never, ever forgot that." And she goes, "And it was such a profound moment of my life." And I'm like, "I don't remember doing that." And she goes, "Yeah, we did it in Starbucks." And I'm like, "Really?" And it's the only reason I say that is like when you can give people the gift of your time, if nothing more than listen, and if they ask you for feedback, don't just give them feedback. "Hey, look at me, I got feedback for you." It's like, yeah, feedback.
Yeah.
You know you can do with your feedback. But if someone asks you for something, and if you could just take that little bit of time to do that, sometimes you could affect them in a small way today, but that'll multiply and compound later on, and they'll look back. And they'll say, "Yeah, I remember that conversation. I had conversations with people at EA that were amazing, that have really changed the trajectory of what I've been able to do."
Read books, listen to podcasts with people like yourself, self-reflect, have people around you who give you proper feedback. That's really important. That's the only way you can grow as a lead. And sadly, like becoming a better understander of game design or product management or technical things doesn't make you a better leader. It makes you a better specialist, but it doesn't make you a better leader. And despite all of this, a lot of people, like I know in my first, leadership positions, couldn't care less about books. Maybe one book. Maybe if it had Navy SEALs, I could read it. But that's about it. But it's incredibly valuable to have these conversations, to listen to these type of conversations, and to just to read a wide variety of books. That's what I've noticed, and then just take action based on it.
It's that network you build. There are people that I call friends that I didn't really know them very well. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, when you reached out and said, "Oh, to do this," I was so excited. It's like, "Oh my God, I get to talk to you." I was really excited to talk to you because I've been reading and listening to Deconstructor of Fun in the past, and I remember when I talked to you a long time ago. And I can't remember whether it was in California or Helsinki. I think it was California.
Or GDC. So
your journey and then going and telling the purposes. "I'm going to talk to Mishka today." I said, "Who's he?" He's like, "Oh no, it's this guy." And then I explained who you were. Like, "Oh, that guy. I know that guy." I said, "Yeah, I get to talk to him." Who's that? He actually called me. It is my pleasure and honor to be talking to you.
No, it's the other way around. I just use everybody's expensive time for free mentoring and coaching. This is really this podcast is incredibly self-serving. People just don't understand it. It's only the things that I'm interested in. And we talk about it.
That's great.
I do.
There's tons of people that are in this world that are starving for the content that you're serving on now.
It's for me. I like if they take the crumbs or the same thing, if they want this portion of content, go for it. But this content is mainly for me. I'm incredibly interested in employer branding. I think you're doing just a triple A job on that, and I wanted to talk to you about it. And also I wanted to reconnect and hear what's going on. So on that note, I'm gonna let you go, and I'm gonna let myself go because it's pretty late. And always, like, I record out of my home gym, and people are like, "Is that some kind of a flex?"
It's
like, no,
you're looking like a sauna background there.
That's another one. It's actually, you would see, like, if I move my camera a little bit, you start seeing dumbbells. The thing is, this is not a flex. You guys are 10 hours behind me,
Right.
or and past, so I have to record these very late in the evening, and I'm not going to go to the office at like 9:30 p.m. to record a podcast. So hence, these podcasts are out of my gym. So that because one person thought, actually mentioned that in the podcast, they thought it was a flex that I have dumbbells in the background. No, it's not.
Exactly.
It's like I just don't have a separate podcast studio next to my home, so that's actually the fact. Anyway, Joe, it was an immense pleasure, and I know that everybody listening to this enjoyed it. I'm gonna put your LinkedIn and Timbre Games in the description below. But before I let you go, what are you guys looking for? What kind of a talent are you guys looking to hire in the close proximity?
Always looking for good engineering talent, especially Unreal. We're looking for Unreal engineers. And we're looking for designers. I'm looking for some senior design folks and some junior design folks. But I'm looking primarily for designers and Unreal engineers. We are pretty good with everything else just now.
And location, Vancouver or remote?
Yeah, location Vancouver or remote. Ideally, we're trying to keep everyone that's remote in Canada for now until we can actually get our our infrastructure set up that we can actually do it in other places. But yeah, pretty much anywhere in Canada is open if you'd like to work with us.
Sasquatch.
Yes.
I couldn't even write that. That one is open too. So if you're in Sasquatch, Edmonton, Winnipeg, I don't even know. I don't even know if that's in Canada, but it does sound like a Canadian town.
It's Bigfoot of all the Snowman and so there you go.
Yes. So I only know the cities in Canada that have an NHL team because I'm from Finland. So that's why I know about Winnipeg and Edmonton and Calgary and Toronto and Montreal and Quebec and Vancouver.
Nice.
So if you don't have an NHL team, and Ottawa, if you don't have an NHL team, I've never heard of you, and I'm frankly not
You can be
interested.
forgiven because you are not a Canadian, but we can make you an honorary Canadian. We will send you a Timbre hoodie.
I do like hockey. So
When I got there, I was able to drop some Tamo Solani and
exactly.
And all these
Yeah. Exactly. Except Pavel Bure was one of the best Canuck players ever. So, yes. So there's that. I remember him scoring a lot. Anyway, Joe, a pleasure. Everybody else, thank you for listening, and hope you enjoyed the podcast. I know you did enjoy the podcast. Anyways, we're out.